Actually, I see him. Stop. I see him better.
Live from Southern California, you're watching the North American Hockey Authority, where you're going to elevate your hockey IQ. Presented by Today's California. My name is Craig Campbell with Today's California, and I'm here with my co-host, Ed Heathouse, and he is an AHL off-ice hockey official for the CV Firebirds, Coachella Valley Firebirds, and he's in the house, and we welcome you today. What's happening, Ed?
Hey, Craig, thanks for joining me in the North American Hockey Authority studios in Palm Desert. Looking forward to a really, really fun episode today.
Loving it, man. You know what? I love our studio here. We got it all set up. I want to give a great shout out to Charlie, who's putting this all together, engineering and producing. Not all that easy to do. Got 3 or 4 cameras coming at you live. I love it here in Southern California in our amazing studios that we've put together. And you know what? We always start off with a rules segment. Of course, because the rules are so important, we should talk about a few.
Well, rules, what do we have, really, when you get right down to it? I'd like to begin the rules segment, though, with a shout out and a thank you to the Pact Advertising Group out of Toronto for extending an invitation to us to continue using my good friend Peter Puck. We talked about this last episode. The Peter Puck series turns 50 years old this year. And Brian McFarland and his wife have kind of tendered the archives of Peter Puck for 50 years. And they graciously are allowing us to continue to use him to teach newer hockey fans the rules and entertain those who've been around for a while.
With that said, we should just throw up our first full segment here. What do you think?
I say let's go for it.
Let's do it.
At this time, I'm going to talk about timing, equipment, officials, and players. Hey, cool it, fellas. I got something to say. Howdy, fans. Peter Puck here to lay some facts on you about hockey, the world's fastest team sport. Now, the playing time of a hockey game is 60 minutes, composed of 3 20-minute periods, separated by 2 15-minute intermissions. Now, to begin with, before the game even starts, I'm given a deep freeze. Woo! That's to take a little of the bounce out of my hard rubber body.
3, 2. Hey, we thank you, Peter Puck. You know, these things are really cool. I loved how they animated them. And I know, like you said, 50 years, and they're still relevant. I think we have a couple more, too. Why don't we just throw them up and continue to educate our audience and ourselves?
All right, Peter, teach us about the lines on the rink, will you?
Now, let's look at our field of play. It's called a rink, and not a rinky-dink rink either. 200 feet long and 85 feet wide. Almost large enough to contain 4 basketball courts. The wooden sides of the rink are referred to as, what else? The boards. And above the boards, there's shatterproof glass. See what I mean? Beneath that ice are the markings we call the center red line, and the 2 blue lines dividing the rink into a middle neutral zone and offensive and defensive zones. At each end are the goal lines with the goals themselves. They are 4 feet high and 6 feet wide. That rectangle before the goal is called the crease, and only the goalie is allowed there, unless I happen to slip in, and then it's fair territory for anybody. Whoops! Hey, wow! Hey, watch it! Hey, wow!
I mean, unbelievable. We also got dots, not just lines. But I have a quick question. Why do they call it a rink? Do you have any idea about that, Ed? Usually pretty smart on these things.
It's just what it's always been called.
Yeah, ice.
I have no idea.
An ice rink. It's interesting. We're going to have to do a little research. Hey, if you guys tell us where you're watching from and let us know if you have any questions, whether you're watching it live or afterwards on a replay. We will definitely put the information in the comments and respond accordingly. Give us your ideas of what you'd like to see, of course, in the next shows, because we're planning on doing this every Wednesday. And I think we have one more Peter Puck. Let's talk about the dots.
These circles and dots are used for face-offs. That's starting play. These are the players' benches and separate penalty boxes.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate that. And we thank you for the permission and being able to utilize Peter Puck. And we'll continue to come back at you, Peter Puck. My name is Craig Campbell with Today's California. And once again, my co-host Ed Heathouse. He is an AHL off-ice official for the Coachella Valley Firebirds, who are the AHL Seattle Kraken affiliate. So playing right here in the Coachella Valley and Palm Desert area. We have a game tonight, which is very exciting, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But I thought we'd maybe bring up a little bit about History Matters, a History Matters section. Ed, you're always so brilliant about this because you've been around.
I do get around, Craig. At least that's the rumor on the streets. I love talking about hockey and hockey history because if we don't know where we came from, how do we move forward? And on this date in NHL history,
November 8th.
November 8th, 1977, the great Marcel Dionne, Hall of Fame forward for the Los Angeles Kings, tallied a hat trick at the Great Western Forum. And ironically, on the same day in 1990, Marcel's jersey was retired, raised to the rafters of the Great Western Forum next to all of the other great retired Los Angeles Kings. And it was quite a history for the man.
When was the NHL actually? When did it start?
The first official game was 1916 in Kingston, Ontario, if I remember correctly, Craig.
Was the National Hockey League at that time, or was it under a different
it was all amateur before that, and that was kind of the first recognized National Hockey League.
Now, was each player under a contract, or were they paid? Do you have any idea about that?
They were paid, but probably very little. They were paid weekly, and I don't mean every Friday.
Gotcha. Very interesting. You know, history does matter, and of course, with over 100-year history NHL and 50 years of Peter Puck, and we won't even tell your age, history does matter, and it's pretty exciting. You know, it's really amazing when you stack up NHL and all the things that are happening and just the development and how far the NHL's come. You know, think about those first players that were making nothing, and now look at the type of contracts that are being signed in the NHL. Got to thank all those guys prior that put the time and the work in to really build what is an incredible professional sport that we get a chance to talk about. We are the North American Hockey Authority, and I'm Craig Campbell with Today's California with Ed Heathouse in the house. And we're just elevating our hockey IQ together. That's why it's important that you guys give us your comments, your interest, tell us where you're from, and anything that you might want to add to the equation. We are all about it. And we're live, so it's super exciting. So, you know what else we have on here? We have...
I think it's time for my peeve of the week.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is. Peeve of the week. Ed's peeve of the week.
This is a week-old peeve, Craig. During last year's Calder Cup playoffs, I, along with many of the fans, were delighted with being greeted out in the parking lot on the east side of the arena with folks cooking hot dogs on outdoor grills. A number of the fans started referring to them as victory dogs.
Now, were they only out there when there was a victory?
No, they were out there, but for some reason, hot dogs just taste better after a win.
Well, I tell you, everything tastes better after a win. It's just bitter when you lose. I mean, it's no fun, sad, especially when it's the seventh game of the Calder Cup in overtime. But we won't talk about that yet.
No,
so what is your peeve? What is going on?
We're still trying to turn page.
Can you? I don't know. I don't know if it could ever happen, really. I don't know if I'll really ever recover. That's something definitely deep. Now, if we win again or win this year, it could support a little healing. But we are a long way from that right now. So
still an open wound.
What's that peeve?
So last Wednesday night, 1 week ago today, I worked the game from the visiting penalty box. Got to meet a number of cool chaps from the Abbey Canucks. And after an 8-4 Firebird victory, 8-3 Firebird victory, I thought I'd head out to the parking lot and have a victory dog or two with some of the fans. Couldn't find one. Couldn't find them anywhere. They were all over the place last year. Now, maybe I was not looking for it earlier in the season, but just curious if any of you local Coachella Valley folks have any idea what happened to our victory dogs, drop a note in the comments for us, please, and enlighten us, because, man, that's a post-game treat that I'm really going to miss.
Well, sounds like there might be a hot dog backup or something like that. You know, we are having distribution challenges throughout the world. Maybe something with the dogs. So we're asking for the victory dogs to be brought back at Acrisure immediately, so that tonight, when we win the game against San Diego, it's a prediction. I'm 50-50. I mean, we're going to win tonight. I'm just going to say it right here. We're going to be looking for dogs, regardless.
Switzerland wants the dogs back too.
Okay, we're totally interested in the hot dogs, and that is Ed's peeve of the week. Yes? Well, we should just move right into snipes and chirps. And I know that this whole terminology, something important, it's a hockey terms I'm learning.
Right.
But I also understand that there's something different about a chirp versus a snipe and a snipe versus a chirp. We have a quick video that might give an example of a snipe. I think we're going to show it real quick here. If it finds it.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about snipes.
In the vernacular, Craig,
Mhm.
a perfect shot that beats the goaltender is referred to as a snipe. And also, when players sarcastically bring each other down, the players will refer to those as snipes as well, but they're more commonly known as chirps. So we're going to separate this from this point forward in our show. Snipes will refer to goals. Chirps will refer to the sarcasm. And I'm pretty sure producer Charlie's got a really nice Firebird chirp.
Snipey.
Snipey.
Like you said, like, a sniper. So one of those goals that just go right in. I think he's still looking.
So far was off the iron for Abbotsford. Logan Morrison over the line, right circle to the net. He scores! There's the first pro goal for Logan Morrison. Through the night. Harsh deep beams.
There you go.
Chance so far was off the
His first professional goal, and man, if there's a better example of a snipe, I'd like to see it, because that was a laser shot into the upper corner.
It was beautiful, and they went on to score 2 more goals and be up 3-1 in that first period. I believe on to a tremendous victory, 8-3. I think we're still trying to figure out how many goals were actually in that game, but 8-3, super exciting. 21 goals in 3 games prior. I think in this segment. When's the last time we played?
Bakersfield last weekend, Craig.
Yeah.
We went up to the team went up to Bakersfield, took on the Condors, and managed to pull out a 2-1 win.
Very good. So I don't know if you're hearing any external noise, but that's okay. We're getting on grass mode here, and things are excellent in our live studios. Hopefully, it's just ambient noise. It's not a problem at all.
I'd like to affirm that I changed my gardener's day. It's the neighbor's gardener that's here.
Yeah, we'll work on that. So snipes and chirps. So do you have an example of a snipe? So snipe is a goals shot,
Right,
but
which
a
we just
chirp
did.
could maybe come from a player to player, or might even be a fan chirping.
Correct.
Do you have an example of a chirp?
Fans will chirp referees. As someone who's part of the official crew, I do not criticize referees. They're working their butts off. They're under the
I'm
microscope.
pretty sure you are one.
And yeah, so it might be taken personally. But
You know what? I'm just going to stop and say something super exciting. You're going to be running the clock tonight.
that's the rumor.
That's something new for him. He's going to be
Absolutely.
trained on the clock. So any clock issues, Ed, he's right here. Take a look at him. You can find him eating hot dogs afterwards at the Victory hot dog stand. But I'm very excited. I know when I first came in, you were a little bit nervous, and knowing that this is coming, because it's a big deal, making sure that clock is correct. And I'm kind of excited as they continue to give you different tasks. I think it keeps it fresh, keeps it very interesting. Sometimes you're counting points, sometimes you're in the penalty box, and now you're learning clock. And sometimes you have that goal light in your hand.
Oh, yeah.
All
Goal
off-ice hockey official tasks. So I know I sidetracked a little bit.
That's okay. I've done the clock at several places, many places before this. Just that this will be my first time at Acrisure manning the clock. So yeah, any problems with the clock? heathhouse.ed@gmail.com.
And you can chirp them, because that might be a
Chirp
good
away.
way to chirp. Yeah, there you go.
Chirp away.
It's just a little bit of noise to get in the head of either the officials or players. Of course, it's a part of really every game, but chirping specifically in hockey, it's kind of an interesting term. Snipes and chirps.
So the chirp, it's a sarcastic, well thought out, well timed comment or action. And I think my favorite from the past, Craig, growing up as a Muskegon Mohawks fan in the International Hockey League, I remember the game when we did not have an organist or any music going on during downtime. The teams just changed their lines, and they had a face-off, and that was it. So I remember when the organ was first introduced to hockey games in Muskegon. And at the time, there was one referee, 2 linesmen on the ice, so 3 zebras. And if the organist in our building, in our barn, didn't like a particular call, he would play a rousing rendition of 3 Blind Mice.
So chirping from the pianist.
Chirping from the organist.
I mean, you couldn't get any better than a chirp from an organist. I mean, I just think that's, why don't we have that? We should bring that back.
Well, now we have 4 officials.
Oh,
on the ice
and they
instead of
can't,
3.
oh, I got it. So you still can't say 3 blind mice?
Well, apparently one of the 4 can still see it.
Well, maybe we'll get one called right then. That's not a bad idea.
But talk about everybody in the building smiling. Everybody except 3 people smiled at that. It was hilarious.
I bring it back. I'm for it. Maybe that's our point counterpoint. We could talk about that also a little bit later in the segment. You know what? We do have a Firebirds game tonight. It is coming up at 7 o'clock, I believe, at Acrisure Arena. Maybe we should talk a little bit about our local team. Seattle Kraken, AHL affiliate here, is the Coachella Valley Firebirds. We are playing the San Diego Gulls tonight. And is this the first time that we've seen the Gulls this
First
season?
time we've seen them this season.
So this will be an interesting take. Now the Gulls are currently in last place, and we're mid fourth place, I think, right now in our Pacific Division. And all these games really matter now, early. I guess every game really matters, but we're learning a little bit about lines and different things that are happening. And you can see that the Firebirds continue to mesh and get a little bit better as time continues to move forward. Thank you, Charlie, for that mesh word. So let's throw up a little bit of Firebirds. You know, we talked about last time we were talking about fighting, our point counterpoint, a little bit about fighting. And we had an amazing, Charlie actually picked up a great fight as a spectator, because we're not really allowed to do video ourselves per se and put it up there because it's owned by the NHL. But in this particular case, we were doing it from a fan's perspective and sent in to us, and we have that. Why don't you put that up real quick? There you go.
That was a dandy.
We love the fights, and it was such a good pickup, you know.
It was quick and concise, and I love the fact that at the end of it, he's bringing the crowd up. Come on, people, let's hear it.
And then we see Dan, the head coach, after, give him no love for that. In fact, it was a strong, like, not even pay attention. And even the players on the sideline there, or at the bench, were trying to figure out whether they should high five him, whether they should tap him. I think they just acknowledged him with their eyes, and they kind of left it alone. Because in that particular case, we went on to lose the game, and that's never fun.
They all congratulated him later on. The players did, trust me.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna come on real quick. Can you tell us about dandy? What does dandy mean? What does that mean? What is a dandy?
A dandy?
Yeah, what's a
Is
dandy?
somebody asking us about it?
We've just never heard that before on the show.
Oh, there you
Hey
go.
guys, I'm Charlie. Nice to meet you all.
So, a great pass, a wonderful goal, a good hit. It's a dandy. What a dandy hit. What a dandy shot. What a dandy goal.
What a dandy day.
And it can ultimately culminate in a dandy game.
Can be.
A very north of the border phrase. So whoever from Canada
This is
brought that in.
this is a term of affirmation for any positive deed in the game.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Dandy.
And I use the words like ballin' now too, which I totally don't understand. But
Well, that's a generation
I'm working
thing.
on it.
Well,
Tough
because
thing to implement.
the hockey puck's not a ball, although it was a ball until it got cut in half and put back together and glued, and then it became a puck. We learned that last show on History Matters. These things are very important. And we got a puck that's frozen, which we saw a little bit earlier with Peter Puck in our wonderful videos that we're putting out there. You know what? We're really at the time where we're going to finish this up. That we're at point, counterpoint, and we had some important. We're always talking about different elements in the game, and I think this week you have some ideas about that overtime and shootout process, and I think you want to say something about that.
Yeah, as a goaltender, I never liked the shootout as the ending of a game. It just seemed very anticlimactic. And even the players that I know would tell you they want to finish the game off with a real goal and not just
A walk-off.
the breakaway shootout issue is, I guess it's fun and exciting. When it happens during a game, it's one of the most exciting plays in sports. When it happens as part of a way to settle who gets the points for the game, not so much.
Well, that's kind of a little bit of history. So when a game is tied at the end of regulation and it's a regulation game, they don't do overtime.
Back in the old days, they did not do overtime. The two teams split. You get 2 points for a win in the standings, and you get 0 points for a loss. And in the case of a tie back in the day, the two teams split those points. Each team got 1 point. Somebody came up with the idea that there should always be a winner and an almost winner, kind of like the NBA. So they came up with overtime. And in the playoffs, in overtime, they play as many overtimes as they need until the game is settled. Now, this can lead to some ridiculously long games, 2-3 overtimes.
And you play the entire period. It isn't a sudden death overtime.
It is sudden.
Okay, so the overtimes were still sudden death, but if there was no goals, then you could continue on with multiple overtimes to a
Correct.
point where the game really is no more maybe viable in a way, because it's just, and then players have to play, they have to travel, so many different things, especially if you're getting into multiple overtimes.
Yeah, if you remember last year, Craig, we had a triple overtime game during the
And it was
Calder
a
Cup.
long time process.
It was triple overtime, so literally it was an additional 1 game on top of the game they had already played.
And we were all
Everybody was
feeling it.
exhausted.
Everybody was feeling that.
Right. So in order to prevent that from happening, the NHL and the AHL play a 5-minute overtime. And they play it 3-on-3. That gives the players a lot more room to move, makes the game a lot faster, and generally results in a goal being scored within the first 5 minutes. But if they don't score in that 5 minutes, then it goes to the, in my opinion, dreaded shootout.
Well, as a goalie, I know that puts a lot of pressure on the goalie. And I guess maybe in some ways you feel like, gosh, after all of that game and all that's going on, for it to just come down to a single maybe shootout doesn't represent who should maybe win that game in some ways. Although it is fair and everybody has the same opportunity, it does create a tremendous amount of excitement when you are watching it. And, when your goalie stops that first stop and you guys have an opportunity to go out there and win the game, that crowd is into it. But when you lose by a shootout, no victory hot dogs after that.
You still get the hot dog, you just didn't taste as good. So here's my proposed solution. First 5-minute overtime, 4-on-4. more room than 5-on-5 should get a goal. If you don't get a goal in 5 minutes, teams change ends. They play 3-on-3. If you don't get a goal in that 5 minutes, switch ends, 2-on-2 for 5 minutes. I guarantee no team can survive 2-on-2 for 5 minutes without a goal. And that extra overtime period from 2-on-2 is about the same amount of time as a shootout would take anyway. I'm telling you, players would love it a lot more.
So you're cutting down on the fatigue and the stress, as well as, you know, adding a much more enjoyable element to the game, as opposed to what would be perceived as like getting gypped out of a loss or a win.
And maybe 4-on-4, excuse me, maybe the 4-on-4 represents a little more of actual play time with a goal potential. So you're not just sitting there for 5 minutes going, okay, we got to get to overtime 2 to get to the lesser players. But 3-on-3 maybe too quick, too fast, doesn't represent necessarily the end result. So that 4-on-4 might actually come up with you're kind of feeling like a more realistic win.
It's real hockey. We're settling it like men as a team and not doing it once.
And if they can't do that, then they're going to shrink it down, create some fan fun, and maybe get us out of there a little sooner, because it can go long. What is the record? Is it 5 or 6 overtimes? Couldn't imagine, you know, not something that you ever really want to go through as a player or media person or ref or even a fan. What's sad is oftentimes they close even the concession stands and everything. And so you're basically have nothing unless you.
Well, I have a lot to say about this.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, I wasn't there that night. And as you say, it was an entire game beyond what we would have otherwise played. So concessions close just after the third period starts. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that was.
You know, it's like beer. It's like beer in the 7th inning no longer being sold at Wrigley Field. And you know, we sat there for an extra hour, sobering up, becoming less and less enthused about the cold and the ice, and the players are also tired. So. Yeah, I don't know. There would be something to be said, especially for weekday games where you know, people have work or kids or, you know, whatever it is to contend with. You know, they're going to have to miss out or choose something else to do because they can't afford to give up that time. That's an extra hour into the night. We got out of there around 12 something. I don't know.
The goal was scored after midnight. It was scored the next day.
So,
And we still had a press conference. So they went on after that. So with us, we are waiting for the players and stuff to often change, have their communication debriefing with the coach, and we're still there for what can be 30, 40 minutes sometimes before they come in. And that just takes that much more time. And if it's a loss, oof, it's difficult. So, is that chirping?
No, Ed's over here playing his tiny violin.
Yeah, he's doing a little chirp session, but we haven't even done that. See, it can actually be done physically too. Apparently, you can chirp with hand languages.
I haven't had a monitor on the whole broadcast today. I'd like to welcome Charlie to the camera.
Oh yeah, he's here. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's right in the middle. He's right there in the middle. And point, counterpoint.
Point and counterpoint.
Counterpoint, all wrapped up in one. Hey, you know what? I think that's taken us pretty much to the end. This is our third North American Hockey Authority show, coming at you on Wednesdays, somewhere around noon. We're still working that out, but that's going to happen. Make sure that you let us know where you're watching from, whether you're watching it live right now, whether you're picking this up at some other time. Make sure you also put whatever comments that you like in there, because we're going to review them, look at them, and respond to them. It's so much fun. And if there's any segments that you particularly like or interested in or want to see us continue, let us know about that too, because it's all helpful for us. It's a brand new show coming at you. And our whole goal is to help us collectively elevate our hockey IQ, learn a little bit each and every day. Oh, I heard a little beep in my ear. That's interesting. So I think on that note, Ed, Charlie,
Good.
North America. Talk to you guys next time.
Be good humans.
Thanks, guys.